Welcome back to your daily dose of ancient wisdom. We continue our reading today of Srimad Bhagavata, Book 1, Discourse 5. It's about glory of singing the Lord's praises and an account of Devarshi Narada's previous life. Sutta says, when comfortably seated, lute in hand, the celestial sage Narada of extensive renown spoke to the Brahmana sage Vedavyasa, who sat beside him as if smiling at his disconsolation. Narada said, most blessed Vyasa, son of Parasara, I hope your physical self as well as your mental self are satisfied in themselves. I am sure all that you wanted to know has been fully realized since you produced the most wonderful Mahabharata, which fully deals with all the objects of human pursuit, dharma, etc. You have also investigated the truth of the realized and the eternal Brahma, the Absolute. Nevertheless, my Lord, you bewail your lot as if you had not yet realized the object of life. Vyasa replied, all that you have said about me is true, yet my soul finds no satisfaction. We ask you the cause of it, which is unknown to me, since your knowledge is unfathomable, you being son of Brahma, the self-born. You know all hidden truths inasmuch as you have worshipped the most ancient person who is the ruler of both Prakriti and Purusha, matter of spirit, and who by his very thought creates, sustains, and reabsorbs the universe with the help of the three gunas, though remaining unattached to all the same. You go about all the three worlds even as the sun does, and moving within all like the vital air by the dint of your yogic power, you can read the minds of all. Even though I have fully realized through the practice of yoga and observance of the sacred vows, both the Supreme Brahma, the Absolute, and Brahma in the form of the Vedas, pray point out to me my great deficacy. Narada replied, you have failed to sing adequately the stainless glory of the Lord. I consider that wisdom to be deficient which does not tend to praise the Lord. O chief of sages, you have not so fully described the glory of Bhagavan Vasudeva as you have dealt with the objects of human pursuit such as dharma, etc. Speech, which though full of figurative expressions never utters the praises of Sri Hari, the praise that possesses the virtue of sanctifying the world. It is considered to be delight of the voluptuous man who wallow in the pleasures of senses like crows that feed upon the dirty leavings of the food. Like swans that are traditionally believed to have their abode in the lotus beds of Manas Sarovar lake, devotees who have taken shelter in the lotus feet of Lord and therefore ever abide in his heart never take delight in such speech. On the other hand, that composition which through faulty in diction consists of verses, each of which contain the names of immortal Lord, bearing the impress of his glory, wipes out the sins of the people. It is such composition that pious men love to hear, sing, and repeat to an audience. That wisdom, too, which is free from blemish and is a direct means of the attainment of liberation, does not adorn one's soul so much if it is devoid of devotion to Lord Achyuta. How then can action with an interested motive, which is rooted in sorrow at every stage, both while it is being performed and at the time of its fruition, and even disinterested action that has not been dedicated to the God serve to heighten one's glory. Endowed with an unfailing eye and possessed of sacred renown, O highly blessed Vyasa, you are devoted to truth and steadfast of resolve. Therefore, with a concentrated mind, now recall the exploits of Sri Hari, who wields unthinkable power with a view of the liberation of the entire humanity. The man who desires to talk of anything else than the Lord's exploits falls into the trap of the manifold names and forms evolved by such desire and sees diversity everywhere. Like a boat beaten by a blast, his unsteady mind finds no rest anywhere. It was a great error on your part to have enjoined horrible acts involving destruction of life in the name of religion on men who are naturally addicted to such acts. Misguided by these precepts of yours, the ordinary man of the world would believe such acts to be pious and would refuse to honor the teachings that prohibit such actions. Only some wise men can by withdrawing from the worldly enjoyments experience the supreme bliss which forms the essential character of the eternal and infinite Lord. Therefore, kindly narrate the exploits of the Lord for the good of those who are working under the impulse of the three gunas, modes of prakriti, and lack the spiritual sense. Has evil ever befallen him anywhere in any womb or birth? Who adores the lotus feet of Sri Hari, neglecting his own duty, even if he dies at a stage when he is yet unripe in his devotion or falls from his sadhana? On the other hand, what purpose has been achieved by those who fail to worship God through devotion of their duty? A wise man should strive after the object alone, which cannot be attained by going around from the highest Brahma's abode to the lowest infernal regions. As for the pleasures of the senses, they are had as a matter of course everywhere, like sorrow as a result of the past actions by flux of time, which is too quick to be perceived. Dear Vyasa, a servant of Lord Mukunda, lit the bestower of liberation, never returns to this world, consisting of birth and death, like others, i.e., the men who are averse to Lord's worship. Even by accident he turns averse to him at any time. Recalling the joy of having once mentally embraced the Lord's lotus feet, he would not think of abandoning them since he has tasted their sweetness. This universe is in no other than Lord, who is yet apart from it, being responsible for the continuance, destruction, and coming into being of this world. You know it yourself, yet I have indicated it to you by the way of a hint. O Vyasa of unfailing vision, know it for yourself that you are a ray of the highest person, the Supreme Spirit, and that, though unborn, you have taken birth for the good of the world. Therefore, describe at full length the exploits of the Lord of exalted glory. The wise have declared that abiding purpose of man's austere penance, sacred knowledge, the sacrificial performances, recitation of the Vedas with the current innotation, enlightenment, and bestowal of gifts is to recount the virtues of the Lord of excellent fame. During the last kalpa in my previous existence, O sage, I was born of a maidservant of Brahmanas well versed in the Vedas. Yet, a boy, I was told off to serve some yogis who wished to stop at one place during the rains. Though a mere child, I was free from all childish frolics, was quite tame and submissive, spoke little, and remained aloof from playthings. Through viewing all alike, the sages were particularly kind to me, who did all kinds of service to them. With the willing consent of those Brahmanas, I ate once in 24 hours whatever was left in their dishes after they had finished their meals, and was thereby cleansed of all sins. Thus engaged in their service, I attained the purity of the mind, which conceived a liking to their religious creed, the creed of devotion. There, in that society of the godly men, by the grace of those saints who were given to singing the Lord's praises, I would daily listen to the soul ravishing stories of Sri Krishna. Even as I heard these stories with reverence, O dear Vyasa, step by step I have developed an attraction for the Lord of delightful fame. When I developed an affinity for him, O great sage, my mind got firmly established in that Lord of delightful glory. Though such a mind, I began to perceive the whole of this gross and subtle world as assumed in me the absolute by Maya. In this way, throughout the rains, as well as in the coming autumn, I heard with rapt attention thrice every day the holy praises of Sri Hari as they were sung by those high-souled sages, and forthwith sprouted in my heart that devotion which eradicates the elements of rajas, the passion, the tamas, the ignorance. To me, who was devoted to all these sages, modest in bearing, sinless, full of faith, tame and submissive, yet a child, these saints, compassionate as they were, to the afflicted, graciously imparted, when about to depart, the most historic wisdom which has been directly revealed by Lord Himself. Through that wisdom, I came to know the glory of that Maya, the deluding potency of Lord Vasudeva, the maker of this world, by knowing which men of his supreme abode attain. O sage, I have thus indicated to you how actions dedicated to the Lord, who is the ruler of this universe, as well as the supreme Brahma, the Absolute, serve as the cure for the threefold agony. O Vyasa, of commendable vow, the same substance which contributes to a particular malady cannot ordinarily counteract the disease, but when taken in properly medicated form, it does cure the ailment. Similarly, all the activities of men ordinarily lead to transmigration, but the same, when offered to the Lord, lose their binding character. On duties of obligatory nature that are performed in this world for the pleasure of Lord depends the attainment of wisdom combined with devotion. Those who perform their actions in obedience to the Lord's behest repeatedly utter and meditate on the praises and the names of Sri Krishna in the course of such actions. Obeisance to you, O Lord Vasudeva, we meditate on you. Obeisance also to Pradyumna, Aniruddha, and Sankarshana. The Lord presiding over sacrifices has the divine mantra, mystical formula, for his body and has no material forms. He alone is of true insight, who worships him uttering the name of four forms as indicated above. O holy Brahmana, when I had thus carried out his behest, Lord Keshava blessed me with self-knowledge, mystic powers, and loving devotion to his feet. O sage of unlimited knowledge, pray recount the glories of the Almighty Lord by hearing which even the wise reach at the end of their quest for knowledge. For they recognize only the chanting of such glory and no other as the only means of relieving the afflictions of those who are repeatedly tormented by the trails and the turmoils. Thus ends the fifth discourse, forming the part of the dialogue between Vyasa and Narada in Book 1 of the greatest glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as Paramahamsa Samhita. Thank you.